Well, I still see we have some people joining here, but I wanted to get us started here at least to kind of kick off an agenda for this evening. So thank you guys again for joining this info session. My name is Matt Urban. I'm the Director of Marketing and Admissions here at New Apprenticeship. And basically, this is your time. This is we kind of view this as time for you guys to learn a little bit more, and most importantly, ask your questions. I think that's where the most value is going to get from this. And so, what I'm going to do is at the beginning here, I'm going to try to spend 10 minutes or so and get through a quick presentation. It just kind of talks about overview of what the just kind of what the apprenticeship is, what we are, who we are, kind of what we do, and then some high levels around how the model operates, and then the rest of the time will be with Q&A. So if you notice in your Zoom tab here, there are a couple different things. One of them, you guys have the ability to chat, which some of you are already messaging on. If you have questions that come up during the presentation or actually at all, if you could use that Q&A feature. So you'll see that will enable you to write a question, and then I'm going to be addressing some of those throughout the presentation. I'll start addressing them as they're submitted after the presentation. But my colleague Taryn, who just joined, is also going to be answering some of those as the presentation goes that are through the Q&A. So it just helps us make sure that we answer everything. We can kind of answer them in the order that they're asked. So we will get through everyone's questions. I think given that we have an hour today, I think we should be able to do that. But yeah, so that's kind of what our agenda is. And so I'm just going to dive in here and start. So I mentioned who I am, but that's not really important. I think what's important is, kind of who we are and, why we're doing what we're doing. And so, you've made it this far, you know that we're apprenticeship, and that is focused specifically within technology. There are a lot of apprenticeship programs that you may have heard of, right? And they focus on manufacturing, they focus in on other trades, right? And that's awesome. And the more apprenticeships, the better in our world. But we're focusing specifically on technology. So digital marketing, data analysis, cybersecurity, IT, areas like that. But I think the really important is why we're doing it. And you guys probably know better than anyone that hiring specifically in tech isn't working. There are companies right now that are saying we can't find anyone to fill our jobs, and there are amazingly talented people who are saying, "Hey, I can fill these jobs. I have the skills, I have the ability, right? I just need a chance." And there's this vicious cycle of all employers, or not all employers, but a lot of employers saying, you need 2 years minimum experience for us to hire you. But of course, you can't get experience unless someone gives you the opportunity. So all that to say is I think that's where we come in. That's kind of where we play a part in this, because our model works with employers first. We look at organizations that are really innovative, we think, and that are willing to look at this problem within the whole industry and say, you know what, there's a better way to do it, there's a solution to it. And one of the ways towards this is apprenticeship. And by providing opportunities for people who don't have as much of that, don't have that experience yet, they may not even have all the skills that they really that they say they want on day one, but are willing to kind of make that investment, provide that experience, enable people to learn and grow while on the job, and also learning, getting coaching, mentoring, additional certifications, stuff that I will kind of talk about in this presentation. So that's why we do what we do. This is kind of a visualization of what I just mentioned, right? We call it a pathway, or we look at ourselves as sort of a bridge for talented individuals to be able to start with employers, and those are our partner companies. The roles themselves can vary, the partners can vary. There's a lot of for the sake of this presentation here, I'm not going to get into too many details. We can talk some more in the Q&A. But they generally all operate their early career, right? So entry level, salary, our apprenticeships pay salary. It is a lower salary on the lower range of salaries, for sure, versus, if there's a role that, even within a couple years experience you can get. But the cool part about that, in addition to the salary, there's no tuition costs, there's no costs associated with the additional learning you're getting, versus, the might be similar to an experience where you're working full time and going to night classes, right? Except for these night classes are tied in with your employer. They're no cost, and they're designed specifically to help you accelerate in your career. So that's kind of where we fit into this whole ecosystem. So I'm going to take a minute to talk about program qualifications, because this is where hopefully, I want to clear up right away, because while we try to set the criteria in a way that does not exclude people if they don't have the opportunity to get the experience or certainly some of the education. However, unlike probably most job postings that you guys are seeing, the majority of our roles do not enable people who have already attained a bachelor's degree, even if it was in 10 years ago, 15 years ago, in arts and science or something not related to tech. They don't enable people to move forward in that. So it's not the case for everything, but the majority of it, that's how our apprenticeships or our partners have chosen to operate. So outside of that, you'll see high school diploma or equivalent, ability and eligibility to work in the US. That is another big one, because obviously this is apprenticeship, you'd be working. Our partners do not sponsor visas. So you will at some point be asked to, likely be asked to provide that work eligibility through your hiring process. And so that's a big thing to kind of note. Outside of that, we do have throughout our admissions process that we require some relevant skills or either skills or certifications, technical foundations. However, if you're looking at this and like, I don't know Python, we try to keep the sort of bar, that baseline knowledge low enough that we can provide you, even if you've never done it before, provide you some resources, provide you an opportunity to be able to quickly upskill and continue on through our process to start our bootcamp program. So this is kind of a timeline. I mentioned our boot camp. These are pre-employment trainings that typically from 2 to 3 months, 8 to 12 weeks. Then our apprenticeship. It's 12 months long. This is when you're working full time. You're going to sessions with your cohort in the evenings and continue to learn. But one of the things I call out is that the employment through the apprenticeship, while the apprenticeship itself is 12 months, the full-time employment is in continuity. I mean, it's forever if you wanted to. You are a full-time W-2 employee, and really the hope of this program and with our partners is that you're going to go through the apprenticeship, learn, grow, accelerate, get a promotion or get a raise, find another opportunity within the organization and continue to grow and develop. And that's why I have this sort of continuing learning and education as part of the timeline, because while a lot of our employer, a lot of these opportunities will not allow people who have a bachelor's degree to participate, we all see the value of continuing to gain credentials and in a bachelor's degrees or additional education. And so we have some ways to continue doing that, most notably with a university called Southern New Hampshire University, where we have an articulation agreement where, as part of the apprenticeship program, part of the certifications and experience that you'd be getting, you can actually earn up to, I think, 27 or 30 credit hours towards a bachelor's degree through an IT or related bachelor's degree. So we're all about trying to find ways to, number one, eliminate or reduce any of the debt that's largely associated with needing to get certifications and get credentials, educational credentials. but also provide that kind of pathway for continued growth. So expectations, I always like to try to set these because while the learning itself is kind of part-time, it's pretty intense, and so I can Christian Hartley, our senior program manager, has joined us, and she can certainly speak to those better than I can. But the expectation is, as we talk, as Taryn and I talk to the people in our team within the interview process for our admissions, we kind of say, like, I recommend people to make space in their lives for this. Be able to plan on going in and really, dedicating yourself, especially if you don't have that technical background coming in. There's a lot of learning that happens really quickly, and we're here to support and help you grow very quickly. But you need to make space for it. So kind of all I'll say on that for the moment. But here's kind of what a journey map would look like. And so one of the things I should call out really up front is that this boot camp, right? That this pre-employment boot camp that's designed to get you these baseline, day one necessary skills. At the end of that, a job isn't guaranteed. So we do have these employer partners where we'll put you up for an interview, and then at that point, they will, if you get hired, you get a job offer, it would be, as an apprentice throughout the program. We do have a system in place for being able to re-interview. We basically, without getting into all that detail, all of our success, I think, us as an organization, our partners, and all of our apprentices, like, success is really aligned around getting that job. And so we do everything we can to prepare people, and to help them land that role and start that apprenticeship. So a couple other quick call outs as part of this apprenticeship journey. I mentioned already the technical skill development. The coaching is a big aspect. I have a brief slide I want to touch on in a couple slides. But as you graduate, in addition to certifications that are part of the apprenticeship program, you actually receive a Department of Labor apprenticeship certification, U.S. Department of Labor, because we are a U.S. registered apprenticeship program. They're pretty cool. It's pretty cool looking, and it's a huge accomplishment. I mean, it's a, much like a diploma, right, or a degree would be symbolic of all the things you did to earn it. There are really specific competencies that your manager attests to you being able to demonstrate, that you can then go and take and show that you did all these things as part of the apprenticeship program. So it's pretty cool. Boot camp, I talked about a couple times, but the model that we typically have here is 3 days a week in the evenings. Around 15 to 20 hours of total time. So that includes both the time that you'd be spending in Zoom calls with your cohort, as well as some time outside of that, completing trainings or working towards certifications, portfolio projects, things like that. The apprenticeship itself is similar in the way it's executed. However, the number of hours invested scales back a little bit in recognition that you're also working that full-time job. And then instead of 3 nights a week, it's typically 2 nights per week, but it's still really aligned around quick development of technical skill, but also really in leadership. The leadership skills, what was soft skills, things like that. The coaching I mentioned, again, I think it's just a huge differentiator for our program and kind of what we offer. So there's performance coaching, there's job coaching, there's leadership coaching. We have quarterly reviews that we integrate through mentors and managers. I mean, there's just a lot of pretty robust system to enable people to not only on the technical side, right? That's the most obvious, but working through some of the situations that happen in any workplace and kind of navigating those interpersonal relationships or organizational changes, things like that. I've been for the first couple of years that I've worked here, I was a coach for our digital marketing program, and I can tell you that there's no, so in my experience at least, right, there's no like work and home separation, right? They are the same thing. And, as coaches and as support for what we see, it's kind of helping where we can in both areas or in either area to be able to be successful in both. Last slide, this is it, and then we'll open up to questions. Thank you for your patience with me, but the next step, right? If you're interested and you haven't already applied, there's an application link here. I'm also going to send a link in chat in a second that kind of shows our apprenticeship, the apprenticeship programs that we have currently, and some of the locations, because another important thing to note that I didn't mention, while the apprenticeship training is all remote, a lot of the jobs are in person. We're starting to see our employers getting back to in office. And so you'll see when you apply, we ask you to select a primary work location. That is a lot with how we can present you with apprenticeship options based on the location or locations that you are able to work at. So you may have, if there's some questions around like, hey, I wanted, why wasn't I provided an opportunity for X apprenticeship? Most likely it had to do with locations that you were available to work at in person. Okay, so that is all. I can see that Taryn's been doing a great job of answering some questions already. Before I jump into some of those, though, I want to give Christian you an opportunity to say hi. And what did I miss? What else should we talk about?
Hey, yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me, Matt. I think you touched on some really good points there. One, that the 9-week program is an intense program that would help you learn the fundamental skills of the topics discussed. So needing to make room in your life, like really time management and planning out, like, what does this look like for me over the next 9 weeks? Knowing that, you're going to be in evening sessions 3 nights a week, plus group coaching sessions once a week. So really looking at, what do you have going on now? And what do you need to, make room for so you can fit this program in? There's constant support. You have coaches to work with, instructors who are great, giving you fundamental knowledge and basic skills to work with. And then you have, like myself, the program manager, and you have the operations team. So you have a lot of support going into this, but you definitely need to make the room and time for yourself. The other thing I want to touch on is, like, there's just many opportunities once you're hired on, and make it into the apprenticeship, like earning college credits and earning certifications. So very beneficial, great opportunity. And just, again, you have the support behind you to help you throughout the way, not just the boot camp, but also the apprenticeship as well.
That's great. Yeah, thank you for adding that, Christian. One just note for logistically here, we're going to try to, because I mentioned we're going to get through all these questions, but if you can ask them in that Q&A rather than the chat, that will help us keep a little bit more organized and be able to answer them faster. So yeah, if you guys wouldn't mind being able to put them in there, we're going to use the chat to try to deliver some other information of note. So if you guys see there, I put in a landing page. It has some of the different programs, opportunities. You can see the locations that are available, syllabus. I think that'll be helpful for y'all. Okay, so starting at the kind of the top of the open question list here, project work around 10 to 15 hours. If yes, was the pay look like? Great question. So I think what the intent of this question is asking is there pay during the boot camp? So the answer to that is no. So there's not. This is free. It's no cost training. However, the projects are, and the reason the projects they're not client related projects. You're not doing kind of billable projects for any of the partner companies. These are projects that you would be doing to develop your portfolio, develop your skill set. And so that's why, like I said, there's no pay for it, but we are able to offer it at no cost. And part of that no cost I didn't mention in this presentation, part of the reason we're able to offer it at no cost is through grants that are available. And so depending on where you guys are located as you apply, we may throughout the process ask you to help us by providing some information to either local workforce boards or to funding organizations that can help offset the cost of us being able to put on the program so that we can offer this to other people in the future without cost. So that's kind of part of the model that that kind of how we operate. So the another question is around salary after the apprenticeship. So I want to I can give a little bit of insight in that one from my experience on the digital marketing side. But Christian, I know you're a lot closer in more of our IT related roles. So can I let you lead that one off first, and then I can provide some of my experience as well?
Yes, of course. So, and again, the question was after the apprenticeship, what does salary look like, right?
After the apprenticeship, yeah, what can, they said they know there's a lot of different factors that would influence that, but essentially
Mhm.
what would I expect kind of?
Yeah, so we don't have, so you'll be working with Infosys, which means that you'll be under the Infosys HR employment as well. So there are other opportunities that would be available to you. So depending on what you're working, yeah, there's different factors to this. So sometimes when you're working, you can be on a project that lasts 6 months or on a project that lasts a year. And depending on if that you're, runs past your apprenticeship time, you may be on a project at that time. But what Infosys will do, which is mainly the IT partner, is performance review twice a year. So you have a biannual performance review and you have an annual performance review. And then according to those performance reviews will determine like, are you qualified for a raise? Do you, what certifications and improvements have you made? Do you qualify for another position? So depending on how you successfully work through the boot camp. So let's just take the ITSM program, for instance. If you work through that program successfully, you will earn up to 5 certifications and 24 college credits. If you leave the apprenticeship with 5 certifications in 1 year, that looks outstanding, right? So that will be reviewed in your 6 months and in your yearly, and then Infosys HR and your manager will be able to review that with you on what a raise or what a job looks like after the apprenticeship. So you'll get that annual review. I don't have a hard number for you, like, oh, you're going to get a 20% raise, or, you're going to go to another position. It all depends on your performance at work and how you efficiently moving through the program.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. That's really helpful. And Christian mentioned Infosys, and so there was another question that was asked around the type of companies, right? Are they just startups? Are they big companies? Infosys is the primary partner, so a lot of the roles that are available are through them because I think they employ almost 300,000 people worldwide. So massive company, really, really cool. Obviously, we think they're super innovative just from their approach of, partnering with us, but really the opportunity for learning and for development throughout the onboarding process, throughout the whole thing, they're just so focused on development and education. So that's where a lot of these roles are. We do have other employers that are available, but typically they're smaller. So they would be more of one-off scenarios. There was another question around, do we get to apply for multiple companies when completing boot camp? And the answer to that one, to set expectations, I would probably say that like you could expect one company. However, we do have sometimes other opportunities where if we see, hey, you meet the criteria, you're in this location, you kind of fit with what other companies are looking for at that time, we will definitely put you up. We'll put people up for as many interviews as we can to increase the probability of being hired, because again, that's what we're kind of all in this for. Another question around the states that are available. So this changes. We do our best to work with companies. We do our best to understand where companies need people. right? A lot of times they're reacting to the market. So whether it be clients that they have or needs that they have, whether it's, in certain geographies. So that's a bit of a non-answer at the moment. But what I can tell you, I think our open roles off the top of my head, um, Dallas, Indianapolis, Raleigh, North Carolina, Hartford, Connecticut, Salt Lake City, Utah, Chicago. Um, I think we are on a holding pattern in Houston and Atlanta as far as available jobs. Phoenix, Tempe area is another in Arizona, another with open roles, and Austin, Texas, and I think a couple in San Antonio as well. Another question around the apprenticeship pay, and so typically we would expect. I would expect the 35 to 45 is pretty much our sweet spot of starting pay. There are exceptions, of course, but that would be kind of where I would come in with the expectation, and that includes all the there's no tuition fees, right? All of that is included as part of a compensation benefit. And so the certification costs, the training, the coaching, all the stuff that we've been talking about is all included in there. We have another question specifically around a course that was taken prior to the interview, and if they had to take additional courses. We hope it would be tough to. I don't want to answer every specific scenario, but what I can say is that we try to, at the time of application, understand what certifications or courses you've taken, so that we can then, if we send you a request for an interview, that means you would have already met whatever the criteria is. If you applied and you did not see that, you would have hopefully gotten an email that said, hey, you don't meet these criteria. In order to do this, here's a project to be able to move forward with. And so that's how we try to set this up. If you haven't seen a next step from us, if you applied and it's been a few days, or you've completed a step within the process and you haven't seen something from us within a few days, definitely reach out. Well, first check your spam, because our promotions folder, that happens a lot. We get caught in those things. But if you check those, you still haven't heard from us, reach back out to us. I'll put in the admissions at newapprenticeship.com, and we'll get back to you and try to find out what happened, and we get you moving forward. A question around Atlanta, and so and I'm going to speak for Atlanta and actually all locations, because we want to we do our best to make sure that people who are accepted in our program, they go through the boot camp, they interview, they have an opportunity, there's an open role at the end of that with our partners in the locations that you selected. And so Atlanta is an instance where recently we have a number of open roles. We kind of reached the number of apprentices to fill those open roles. And so if you were in that scenario where applied to Atlanta, or any location, we'll try to send out an email that says, hey, unfortunately we've met the ability. We've reached our max on the open role, or the people to fill these open roles. We're going to put you on a wait list. And as soon as we get more open roles, and they likely will happen, it's hard to predict when, because it's all based on our partner employers where they need people. But as soon as it does in Atlanta or in whatever city, we have your list. We're going to reach out and say, hey, good news, roles opened in this city. Here's the details of it. Here's the next step. Would you like to interview? Would you like to move forward with that? So that's kind of how we're doing our best to make sure that you guys, recognizing that the work that you put in for the boot camp, that you have an opportunity to actually complete that, while still trying to be as fair as possible to people who may have started in this process And then, we reached our cap, and you weren't able to move forward in prior to reaching our numbers. A question around dropping out, if there's any obligation to pay. So there's not. We of course want to do everything that we can to ensure that you don't, or to help people. If you do need to, we know life happens, right? Crazy things can come up. If that's the case, what we'll try to do is find a time for you to participate. Maybe join the next cohort, or a couple cohorts later. We really we want people to be successful and to continue where possible. But in the event that you're just not able to continue and need to drop, there are not any fees or contractual, obligation, payments that you need to make. Great. A question around a specific cohort. Hey, if you're in a specific cohort and you need to push to a next one or to a later one, yeah, let us know. The only thing that I will say, definitely reach out, and we'll look at what location you are, because again, right, like if you got accepted for a location in Indianapolis and we're kind of close to filling that up, and you defer to the next month, well, we want to make sure that there's an open role. So as a general rule, if there's opportunities in later months or cohort launches, we will definitely do that. But again, we really want to, it'll have to be case by case, because we want to make sure that there's that opportunity open. There's a question. Yeah, so there's a question around interviews, and I think what I might do on this one is just really kind of talk about the new apprenticeship interview, and then and Christian, and then I'll turn it over to you to talk about like the interview at least for the Infosys interviews, because those are, we've kind of got the format down and know what to expect. So for the new apprenticeship email or interview, one of the things that we look for, I guess, just as far as preparation, kind of be ready to talk about like why you want to do this, why you're interested in it. Point to things that you've done in the past, whether courses you took or certifications you've done, projects. I mean, I don't know how many people I've talked to that were like, yeah, since I was 9 years old, my family came to me to help fix their computers, right? And since then I've gone, and here's how I've built pursued my interest, because we don't look for really those technical skills to get into the program, right? We look for more of that passion and interest. Being able to articulate like, why are you so interested in this beyond just I think tech is cool. Like, okay, that's why you started in it, but like really understand like, why do you want to start down this career path? So that's a big one. To me, that's the biggest one. There's some other things as well, but I'm a big fan of just kind of being able to understand like, or to be able to articulate like kind of why when I was doing coaching, I would have people before their interview, the three things, right? Know the three reasons why you are the best fit for this job, for this program, right, over anyone else that's gonna that will apply to the program or apply to that job, and then that kind of establishes your themes, right? Because like, here's your three takeaways. You keep going back to them. That's a little bit more strategic for like employer interviews, I think. Not quite the new apprenticeship interviews. We want to be, we want them to be conversational. We want to get a chance to get to know you. So that might be over preparing for the new interviews, but certainly that's how some of the coaching I've done for employer interviews. But Christian, let me turn it over to you for specifically, I think, talking about the Infosys interviews and how those are a little bit different, and some ways to prepare.
Yes. Very technical interviews that you will be prepared for throughout the boot camp. So in the boot camp, you are paired with a coach as well. So coaching happens both in the boot camp and in apprenticeship. So in the boot camp, you are paired with a job readiness coach, and you will be working with this coach to optimize your resume and cover letter and also start to go into interview questions, mock interviewing, testing your skills, which you've learned in the boot camp so far. So this preparation for the interview as you work with your coach and continue to learn and develop with your facilitated led sessions. And then about week 9-ish, you will be scheduled for an interview. You'll get an interview invite from Infosys letting you know your scheduled day and time. You will accept that invite and continue to prepare to meet with the Infosys team. In the interview, it's a 30-minute interview. It's conducted via Zoom, and they will ask you a round of technical questions. The technical questions are questions around basic information that you've learned in the bootcamp. So they're not expecting you to be experts coming out of the 8 to 10-week bootcamp, but they are expecting you to know the basic fundamentals of the topics you've discussed. So whether that's ITSN, which is IDLE, ServiceNow, and Intro to Scripting, or whether that's AWS and you're going into Python and iCloud and data, you're going into Tableau and more Python. But whatever the basic fundamental skills that you've learned in the bootcamp, those are the questions that will be asked in your technical interview with Infosys. 30-minute interviews, after the interview, they will give us interview results on whether or not you've been selected or not. And then there's also opportunities. If you weren't selected by the company to proceed, depending on how you did in the boot camp, we could say, hey, let's take a look. Maybe there was some nervousness in the interview, and maybe we could put you up for a second interview. Maybe we could work with you, give you some retraining, and then put you up for a second interview as well. So yeah, interview process.
Awesome. There are a couple questions in the chat that I'm going to try to jump over to in the meantime, because I think we're caught up in the Q&A side. So bear with me. I think we mentioned a question about Utah. Salt Lake City currently would be our open in Utah. I think we answered that one. No reimbursement fee for tuition. Oh my goodness, great question that I can't answer, but the question was, what does the future of ServiceNow look like? Christian, I don't know if you can answer that one. The only thing I can tell you is I've just read some of their just their high level reporting and growth metrics in the last 2 years through the pandemic, and they're winning awards, they're growing like crazy. I mean, it's everyone needs that now more than ever. And so the growth potential is incredible. And through the apprenticeship, as the roles are, you're learning the fundamentals of ServiceNow, but it's really about becoming a developer on the ServiceNow platform, which then opens up so many other possibilities and opportunities. So that's a non-expert saying that. Christian, you jump in and add anything else, but that's at least my observations and what I've talked to people in the industry about.
Yeah, I'm definitely no expert either. However, following trends and just working in and being a little bit more knowledgeable about ServiceNow and what's going on, definitely, like you said, on the rise, right? A growing industry or growing platform, a growing tool that more businesses are looking to use. One of the, I forget his last name, but I know his name is Bill. He's the CEO of ServiceNow. And I know one of the things that he is looking to do is just, digital transformation, right? And he's expanding that beyond what's going on now, right? So he's looking at future and what's going on in the future so that he can meet the needs of the future, not just what's going on right now. So when you ask what is the future of ServiceNow, don't really know, where it's going, but it's already going in a growing pattern, in a growth or proceeding. I think that the versions that they're releasing, so they have the San Diego versions right now, which everyone seems to love, more automations, more user-friendly. But even on the back end for the developer side is, like able to automate things a lot more easier and to really help clients with like the consulting features of what they want their workflow to look like, the employees or the clients. So I want to say that they're on a rise for sure. And you have at least a good 10 years of a good future in ServiceNow. And I want to quote our VP of digital transformation. He looks at this program and the ServiceNow platform. And, years ago, it would take 5 to 7 years to finish a college degree and move up the ladder and get experience in this field. And he always asks the question, like, with this opportunity, 1 year in the ITSN, which is ServiceNow apprenticeship, where could you be in 3 years? And you could be at a high level in 3 years. You'll be a full stack ServiceNow developer or ServiceNow architect, by applying yourself and gaining the certifications in the field, in the apprenticeship. So just, thinking about that, where could you be in 3 years compared to what it would take for you to like go to school, get a degree, then earn the experience? The ServiceNow pathway is definitely an advancement in career opportunities.
Yeah, that's great. Christian, we've got another great question here. Are you ready? Actually, I don't know that this has ever been asked in an info session yet, so I'm kind of excited to answer it here. What would you say the main reason 50% of participants don't complete the program? That is great. I will start it off again, and then Christian, turn it over to you to provide some additional so some of the trends that we've seen, I mean, there are sometimes that things just come up, right? And that's the uncontrollable factors, right? And we're not going to talk about those because I think those are more of the outliers. Part of it, I think, is that people don't expect it to move as quickly as it does. And so they're not really ready for it. And then when it happens, it's moving faster than they thought. They don't raise their hand and say like, I need help. Guys, this is like, help me do this, right? There's a little bit of element of pride, like, no, I can do this myself. I don't need that. And then it starts to snowball and, you're a couple of days behind, and then you're a couple of weeks behind. And then it's just like, it's too much. I can't do it. So, part of it is, like I said, just knowing when to ask for help and knowing that that's why we're here and what we do. I think another thing is that just not understanding not only the kind of the necessary for the commitment to it, but also some of the time. There's certain things that, like, even just understanding when the program times are, the program times and days, right? This is not a like a Coursera, go on and watch some videos and complete when you can. This is synchronous and collaborative learning that happens through Zooms led by instructors, right? This is there's a lot of a ton of the value that we offer this program is because of through that. You're learning with a cohort live, being led through, versus just on your own. Because if you want to get certifications and look at YouTube videos and watch some old, right, you can do that too, and you can do that. There's a lot of great people who put a lot of great content, but that's not how we operate. So I think those are some of the main reasons that I've seen, at least from my experience. But Christian, what do you think? You're really close to this, and managing the programs.
Yeah, you just want to echo everything that you said, right? Just like the time commitment, the support that you have, the letting go of the ego, unforeseen events, all of that. I think to sum it all up, I would say understanding, the lack of understanding, the time that goes into this. Yes, like really, we tell you that you're going to spend 3 days a week from 5:30 to 7:30 and facilitated sessions. But do you understand what that really looks like for you in your life, right? Or even ServiceNow, is ServiceNow for you, or is AWS for you? Understanding what the program is so that if this is the best fitting for your life. Do I understand ITSN? or ServiceNow, like, is this the career that I really want to go into? Do you understand what this means for you, right? Or even the apprenticeship. I understand that it's a year long, but what does that really mean? Do you have an understand? It all goes back to like your understanding of all the aspects that goes into being a part of this program. Because think about if you're in here for 8 to 10 weeks plus another year, like you're dedicating almost a year and a half, right, to a program. So if you really look at that, it's like, do I have a year and a half to dedicate to learning and growing? Because that's what you're going to be doing, learning and growing. Yes, you're going to be earning some work experience and some money behind that, but ultimately you're going to be learning and growing. And even looking at your future, what is a ServiceNow certification? What will that do for me? Right? What does an IDO certification do for me? What can I do with Google IT certifications? Because then you can get to like, oh, I don't think I really need this, but you do. You can need it for the program, but what does that mean for you, outside of the program when you're done, and how can you use this? So to sum it all up, I would say the lack of understanding is probably takes up most of the 50%. Is this really something that you're interested in? And can you carve out the time for the next year and a half to really make this work for you?
Yeah. Okay, another question around, does boot camp consist of group projects or individual ones? Christian, do you want to talk about that from the IT side, IT, and then some of the data, some of the program side?
Yeah, from the IT program side. Yes. So projects are individual projects. So you'll be graded individually on each project that you submit. But then there are some sessions, not all, that you guys will have a chance to work on it in class together in the boot camp. So your projects are assigned to you individually, but there will be, with some sessions, some group time to work on projects together, so you guys can help each other out, answer questions from the instructor, and so on and so forth. When you get into the apprenticeship, there are a little bit more group projects where you're still responsible for your own individual project or presentation, but you work on it as a group. So just for instance, there's a topic in ServiceNow called micro certifications, and you may be working on ATF or HR department or even business analytics. And you'll work on that in a group setting and then create your own presentation. But as a group, you guys will work on like gaining the micro certification together, but submit your work individually. So there's no group submissions, but you do work in groups here and there throughout the program. And then, sorry, just add to that, we always encourage you guys to team up with each other. If you're other people in your cohort, this is a great place for networking and like getting to know somebody. Just imagine there's people on this call now. Imagine if you guys all started the boot camp together and made it into the apprenticeship. And, a year and a half from now, you guys are graduating from the apprenticeship, on with jobs. So like we highly encourage people to, team up together, work together, grab a buddy, grab a partner so that you guys can do it together.
Yeah, it's definitely that, what is it, that rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing, right? This isn't like a law school, only X% are gonna pass on a bell curve kind of thing. Cool. I have we have a question around, certifications and vouchers. That's perfect timing because we're updating our policy a little bit. So Christian, as always, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the policy will be for the in the IT program, your CSA, ServiceNow Certified Systems Administrator, you will have a one voucher that's provided if you meet certain criteria within the boot camp, right? So Christian, you can probably talk to specifically what those are, but essentially it's like, hey, if you're performing at this level, then you'll have that attempt for free. And then following retakes, if you don't pass it, following retakes, I think no apprenticeship contributes like $50 towards. On the apprenticeship, any certification that costs, you will be provided that voucher for free, that first attempt voucher for free. and then that retake would be $50 would be provided towards that first retake. And then if you don't pass the first after the first 2 times, you're on your own. So I think is that how I is that
Yeah.
articulate that right, Christian?
Mhm. Yeah.
Great.
So most vouchers for certifications are the first ones. Most of them are given upon completion of the course, right? So let's just take ITSN for instance. You take the ServiceNow Fundamentals course. Once you complete that course 100%, um, you meet the criterias of attending 5 study group sessions and passing 3 practice exams, and you get a voucher. The voucher is upfront yours. It's like a $300 and something value voucher that you get to take the CSA exam. If you take it on the first chance and pass it, woohoo, great. If not, you have the opportunity to retake the exam 3 times. The first retake is, well, all retakes are $100 up to 4 complete total chances. The second one is $100 with a 50% reimbursement from new apprenticeship. And then the third and fourth attempt is 100% financial your responsibility to pay the $100 retake fee.
Yeah, and as you guys know, there the different certifications, the different programs, they have different costs, they have different retake policies. I think Tableau is $100 first, and then 50 for any retake. So in that case, you'd get your first 2 attempts would be covered, right? It just depends on the certification. There's yeah, so we won't get into all of those, but in general, that's kind of the policy. So have another question around the programs available where the location is stated. Yes. Yes. And as I mentioned earlier, like we're kind of, it's a little bit of a moving target, right? We're opening things and closing things as we are reacting to our employers when they're telling us where and when they need people at different locations. So we do our best to keep that page updated, but also within our application process, we try to keep it updated and provide open where there's open opportunities, the ability to apply for those roles. And then, if you select a location, like Hartford, Connecticut, I think, and sometimes we have multiple programs available. We might have the data and IT programs available. We try to match your preference if you selected one of those preferred location or preferred apprenticeship programs and you're in those locations. We're going to try to match you to your preferred apprenticeship in the location. If you applied for, let's say you applied for a marketing program in Tempe, Arizona, then we might find that, well, we don't have any marketing availability and that was your preference, but we do have a data program. So we'll kind of reach out to you and say, hey, we know you applied here based on, what you told us. We don't have your preferred apprenticeship, but if you're interested, here's a little bit more information around the data apprenticeship. And, if you're interested, here where the next steps are. So it is a pretty, unfortunately, it's a kind of complex balancing game a little bit of around just the timing. And so it's really tough to predict. I know we had a question earlier around like AWS. So when is the AWS program going to be back? We don't know. I have a guess, right, based on where we've seen in the past. But we are also working with new employers who are coming on board, and they're going to say, we want people in this program in this location over here. Could be Seattle, it could be. So it's really challenging, and I understand how frustrating that must be for everyone as you're really trying to find opportunities in the location that you are in in the program that you're most interested in. And yeah, I guess the best thing I can say is, I appreciate your patience and definitely like checking back, often or connecting with us and asking, if there's updates. We try to be as transparent as we can and as often as we can, but it is definitely a challenge to to align everything with our employers and locations and different applications. Another question around just the session times. We try to, I'm in East Coast time, Taryn's in Central, Christian is in Pacific Coast time. So we try to do as much as we can in stating what time zone there are. So I think on the apprenticeship, the one that I went through, I stated them in East Coast time, 6:30 to 8:30 East Coast. Terrence said 5:30 to 7:30 Central. So we're going to do our best to put in what time zone we're related to, and we try to make it specific to the audience that we're connecting with if possible. But if you don't see anything, definitely call us out on it. Let us know, hey, what time zone is this? We'll update that and make sure it's specific. Cool. We're caught up on the Q&A questions. Let me pop back over to chat, see if there's anything we missed. But I think it seemed like y'all did a great job of asking, if you did ask initially in the chat, to move it over to the Q&A. There's a question here in the chat that I don't know that I saw come up in the Q&A. It was around the program, the deadline for completing a project. We don't typically have deadlines for project completion. So you can submit it at any point. The biggest risk, as I've been talking about a lot here, is that while you may have been provided a project to move forward for a location or an occupation that you're at day one, right? If you submit it in 2 weeks later, 2 months later, things may have changed, and so the opportunity might not be open. So again, if that is the case and you submit, we don't have it open, we'll put you on that wait list to let you know, but we don't have typically a deadline for projects. Okay. I think that we are caught up, and looking at the time, we have gone right to the end here. I just want to thank you guys again for attending, for the really, really great questions, for sticking with us for an hour. We had 95% of the people attended stayed an entire hour, and so that's just really incredible, and testament to y'all and the interest you have in the program. And so we hope we did a good job of providing you information and in helping you have confidence in either continuing with the program, or with the interest in the program, or determining that maybe it's not a right fit for you at this time. So thank you all again, really appreciate it. And the last thing I do, let me throw this in chat if you didn't get a chance to ask a question, or you think about it in 10 minutes, and you can email us at admissions@newapprenticeship.com. So thank you all again, really appreciate it. Have a great night, and we'll hopefully be talking soon.